sure?
figure out what we can
Is that
do.
right?
That's all right.
You all right?
As long as my hair doesn't get
There
wet.
you go. Me too.
All right?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Ben.
Yeah,
All right.
don't pay attention to the last word, it's not true.
That's it. I'm going home. I'm going back to bed. I look forward to hearing from you when you guys go.
Okay, thank you.
See you later. Take care.
Any other public comments today? All right, we'll move into agenda changes. Any agenda changes? No? One thing I did want to point out on the agenda, I asked Ms. Bonnie to put economic development on the agenda and to leave it there because we have a couple of things in motion right now. We have the JED that's finalizing the catalyst for that being the Sheets location. We have a second potential property coming on now that I'll be meeting with this week to expand upon that. Then we also have the TIF being worked through with the property at Shanahan Road, and we met with the engineer's office last week. Last week, right? Sorry, weeks are getting away from me. And had a good conversation, and so now it's at the point where all the different parties are kind of talking and discussing on alignment. So hopefully we'll have more concrete details there. The good news is that, obviously with the prior meetings, the JED with Sheets will be moving forward, with legal counsel as they get that done. That's in partnership again with Worthington, and so it'll be a good benefit to the township. But I just want to make sure we're all aligned as new details come up. So when that agenda item comes up, I'll refer to the team and allow them to explain any updates for the collective board so we can have a discussion on that.
Yeah.
So we can stay aligned. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an agenda item I'd like to add under new business, if we can discuss active transportation assistance program. And just so the board knows, we are having some sound issues, so we have the recorder, and what we'll do after this is combine the recorder to the YouTube channel so everybody can hear, but the audio is not working today. I apologize for the inconvenience.
All right. Good.
That's it.
All right. Any questions on the consent agenda items?
No.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-120 and 22-121, approving both items on the consent agenda.
Second. Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mrs. Knapp? Yes. And Mr. Gomes?
Yes. Takes us to development zoning.
Good morning, trustees. You have the development zone.
Hang on a second. Is this the first?
Yes, it is.
It is. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome you first of all to the township. We're proud to have you on board and look forward to your contributions. I know in meeting with you this past week, you've already started jumping right in, so we're grateful to have you. Sorry, couldn't put you on the spot. His name, might mispronounce it. Robin Duffy.
That is correct.
Okay, and he's our new zoning director. So there's more to the title, right? Michelle, you want to correct me?
Development and zoning director.
Development and zoning director. And I know in your background you did quite a bit of economic development, so I know the community will sure appreciate you joining our team, and we look forward to all you bring to the table.
Thank you, Chair. So our first item on the zoning report, we do have a zoning commission meeting for Tuesday, April 12th at 6:30. This meeting is for organizational purposes, as well as to hear the amendments to the Route 23 overlay district. Ms. Bonnie and I are working on getting that document together along with a staff report for that meeting. On Wednesday, April 20th, this board has a hearing regarding Hidden Ravines Crossing, also known as BJ's and surrounding developments. That is Wednesday, April 20th at 6 p.m. The following evening, the Board of Zoning Appeals will meet. They have 3 variances on the agenda. 2 of them are existing patios that variance for Board of Zoning Appeals is also an area variance that allows for egress windows that are in the setbacks. We did receive 3 applications for the second zoning commission meeting in April. 2 of them are essentially lot splits. They are currently zoned FR1, but they found that if they split the lots, they would not meet our requirements for lot sizes and dimensions in the FR1 district. So they are requesting rezonings to single-family plan residential in order to meet the lot requirements. And then the third and final application for the second zoning commission hearing in April is from Evans Farm. They are requesting to change their development text for all the alleys in the single-family portion of Evans Farm. Those alleys will go from 20 feet wide to 15 feet wide. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we still count a patio like as not a structure unless it actually has some kind of something that extends above the ground? Like a flat patio is not a structure, still correct?
We only regulate concrete or anything that is above grade at this point. So
Okay.
pavers we do not.
Okay.
Yes. Can you revisit the Evans Farm? Just help us understand what's going on there.
So essentially, the developer has requested that I think in order to give the neighborhoods there a little bit more of an urban feel and to essentially take up less land with the alleys, so it would be the alleys behind houses. The fire department standards require those alleys to be at 20 feet. The developer wanted them to be less, so they contacted Orange Township Fire. Orange Township Fire essentially said, you know, that's not up to us, it depends on the state fire code with the state fire marshal. So Evans Farm got in touch with the state fire marshal and essentially requested a divergence from those standards. The Ohio Fire Marshal's office did approve those standards, and so Evans Farm is moving forward with this request to reduce the alley size from 20 to 15 feet.
And what is the alley size in the existing properties now? It's
20 feet.
Okay, it's 20.
This has been something that's come up repeatedly. They had worked over the years on the alley. There were a couple of things, I think, Michelle, that they viewed as counterproductive for their vision of Evans Farm, and we've worked on several of them. This was one that I knew, and that's why I asked for him to elaborate a bit. They had brought up when the fire marshal was our fire department involved in that dialogue once they approved the divergence at all, or is our department still okay with that?
Yes, they are, and
Okay.
part of their application is a letter from our chief.
Okay, great.
Saying that those changes are acceptable.
All right, thank you. Anything further?
I don't have it.
All right, Mr. Bowers.
All right, good morning, board. The first 4 items on the operations report are all kind of tethered together, so if it's okay, I'll kind of group those together and explain them kind of in one big pile of fun here. So item A is essentially what we're looking to do is to follow up last fall's conversation where we adjusted some of the old job descriptions and job titles of our staff in our Parks Maintenance and Facilities Department, which was Mike Kelly and his team. Following up on that, we want to do the same thing with the roads department. On paper right now, our roads department is some of them are roads and parks, some of them are roads laborers. They're kind of all scattered across the board a little bit. So the items on the agenda today are to kind of clean all those up a little bit into one big ball of wax called the Public Works Department. So that will be a little more of a general department that really encompasses what Aaron James and his crew do from a public works standpoint and eliminate the park side of their stuff. Although they still will have some parks responsibilities when needed, this will really kind of define the roles into the realm of public works, which I think will be helpful to kind of modernize it a little bit. So item number A again is adopting the labor job description, which would be our labor guys right now, which are kind of spread out from maintenance to laborers, a bunch of different job titles. To make them all public works laborers, this will be including Nate Birchfield, Greg Butts, James Hobbs, and Fred Neese. Item B on this would be to appoint Dave Gilson to the Public Works Assistant Manager position. As you may recall from last year, this was a budgeted position to try to create layers within the Public Works Department. Not necessarily a full-blown succession plan, but an opportunity to create that layer in case Aaron was out, or in case we did down the road want to slide somebody up into that role. After an extensive interview process with multiple individuals, we decided to recommend to the board an internal promotion of Dave Gilson to that role, which we're excited to present to you, and I know Dave is very excited as well. Item number C on this same ball of wax is posting the job announcement for Dave's vacant position that he's leaving as a laborer. And then the final piece is to convert Aaron James's role into the Public Works Manager position, which is essentially what he's doing now, just really redefining his role with a new job description and converting him from an hourly to a salaried employee. Are there any questions I can answer from the board about those first four things?
Was Dave Gilson, did Dave Gilson drive a plow truck in the winter?
Dave does drive a plow truck.
Do you know if he was responsible for going to court?
I can't answer that question. I'm pretty sure he was not, but I won't throw that individual's name out there right now.
Well, Dave does a good job, and I've enjoyed working with him. I got to work with him on the gardens and a few different things, and seen him out with the team, and got a good fit for that role, in my opinion. And proud to see him continue to grow internally. It's always nice when you have movement internally, and with this type of role, I think we've learned if you don't know, you can go talk to Aaron James for about 5 minutes and find out how much you really don't know about what goes in and out. The little details. They know every resident, they know every problem. It's really remarkable. So I think it would be a very difficult thing for an external candidate to come in and succeed in that capacity. It's nice that we have the team here. The only question I would have, I know you mentioned the ball of wax. We've got bargaining, employees and non-bargaining. How will we navigate that? Are we consolidating that into one department, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what happens there?
No real changes at all. The laborers will still be part of the union. Aaron's job, the Public Works Manager job, is not part of the union right now. It's a non-bargaining position. And Dave's position is exempt as well. It's outside of the union as well. It's a supervisor role, so he will not be a union employee.
Okay, and then as far as the other side of the team, Mike Kelly,
Yes.
That group is also moving into Public Works. Is that correct?
They are not. No,
Okay.
they're remaining what we created for them last fall.
That's where I wanted to be.
Yeah. They'll still remain the Parks and Maintenance and Facilities group to take care of parks, buildings, and grounds.
Makes
They
perfect
are
sense.
non-bargaining unit.
Clearer than mud now. Thank you.
No, thank you, and I'll echo your statements on Dave. Dave brings a very unique skill set to the township as well. A lot of his background in farming and construction, a lot of the skills he has is unique, and I know he's, as Ben mentioned, very interested and been very helpful with the community garden construction and the approach, and lending some farming tips and some growing tips to everybody too. So it's
Not only did he tell me all my plants were put in wrong, but he helped me fix it.
I read his resume, he's part of the CSA, so I think he's.
Yeah.
highly intelligent guy, very skilled, and again, as we constantly hear the same theme of building a good team and hiring great people and retaining great people, I think Dave very much fits that mold. So excited to offer him the position and have a chance to be a sponge around Aaron for as long as Aaron's around.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
No? None? All right. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-122, adoption of Public Works labor job description, assignment to current staff Nathan Birchfield, Gregory Butts, James Hobbs, and Fred Neese.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Thank you, board. Jumping down to, oh wait, we got a couple more.
Got a couple more. It's all right.
I'll stay out.
Your rodeo. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-123, appointment of David Gilson to the full-time position of Public Works Assistant Manager.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-124, authorizing the posting of the job announcement for the Public Works labor position vacancy.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-125, approving the job description and assigning the Public Works Manager position to Aaron James.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you, board.
rodeo.
Exciting stuff. Appreciate that. All right. Item number 5 in the operations report is a issuance of purchase order for Delco regarding the utility relocation on Vale Canyon. As everyone's probably noticed, the road closures are over now. A lot of trees down, missing, and chipped up all the way. The next phase will be utility relocation for phase 1 of the Vale Canyon project. Delco proactively has already sent us their estimates for their work and our portion of the cost for that work. That item is just related to that. And then I'll follow up with the last 2 if that's okay. I'm sure there may be a couple questions for those.
Quick question on the Delta one. Do we have any idea once they get the funding, when that will start?
I have not heard yet. I just settled back in from being out for a week. I know I have a couple of messages from the county to return, and I have a suspicion that I'll gather some more information on that. I'll be sure to share it with the board once I get some better timeframes on that.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda for operations is purchase order and agreement with McDaniel's Construction for the parking lot pickleball court design for North Road Park Phase 2. Again, this is just design work. This is through a procurement opportunity through Sourcewell that will allow us to do really specific design work related to that project to help move that forward. The anticipation on that will be for late summer construction. The way the procurement works with McDaniel's, we'll be able to roll right into construction with them instead of going and bidding it, since it is a procurement opportunity. So we'll review that final purchase, the final agreement with legal once we get to that stage. This initial purchase orders and agreement is just to do the design portion of that. But again, to allow us to streamline that process is pretty handy as well, and allows us to save some time as well. And the final item I have for the board today to consider is the roof replacement contract for this facility here. This roof obviously has had quite a few issues, several leaks, a lot of weathering, wear and tear, whatnot. So picking up a conversation that probably started long before I got here. We worked with IAP Government Services, which is another procurement party, to work with them to have them handle all the bidding and all the contractual work for this process. We looked at a couple different options with shingles, metal shingles, standing seam metal roof, and even some replacement shaker shingles that are kind of new. They're a plastic-ish shaker shingle that would probably fit the building quite well. We settled with the 2 different quotes, one for standing seam and one for the metal shingles. And the item on the agenda is to approve that contract for the board to replace this roof. Obviously, there is some subsurface concerns as well. So once the shingles are torn off, we are very interested to see if there's other additional damage below that. So I do have a contingency item in as well, which was on the consent agenda just to kind of cover any of those unknown expenses right now.
And what will it change the appearance of the building?
In a sense, yes. I mean, it won't be a shingled roof anymore. It'll be a metal roof, so we'll have a little bit different look, but it'll be, color will be very, very similar. And obviously the time frame we get on the safety and sense of security on the roof is much longer than what we currently have.
Do you have a picture of it? Is it, so did you go with this standing seam or the?
No, they're metal shingles, so they look similar to what these are, but if you're just casually looking at it, you probably won't notice much of a difference.
Okay.
But if you actually stay around it long enough, you'll be able to tell they're actual metal shingles, but they do kind of move down like shingles, and they do kind of appear like shingles.
One of the questions that Silas and I chatted about was, it's
There you go.
pretty expensive, for what they're asking us for, and with the metal shingle, metal roof, it's a lifetime, right?
Yeah, it's
a
roughly
much longer-
50 years.
Right, whereas a typical asphalt shingle is a 30-year warranty typically on a home. This is probably classified as residential because it is a large home. It's about 14,000 square feet of roof, which is a lot. A lot of different angles, and just a lot. The elevation is very unique. So he was saying that there were a number of companies that didn't even want to try this project because it's so challenging. So I was asking if we were to use more of the traditional asphalt shingle, what is that cost differential? And South, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was
I think it's somewhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 range,
right.
roughly.
That's the cost, I'm sorry.
Of the difference, and how much we
Okay, yeah,
cheaper.
metal is always the way to go. They
Right.
last, even standard shingles don't really last 30 years.
Right.
If you walk across them, you're toast anyway. If you have to get up there, you can, depending on the day and what's going on, you can damage them just walking
Yeah,
across.
metal roofs are nice, I approve of the metal roof.
And with the amount of shade that we have here, it's not conducive with the asphalt. It's
Right.
It doesn't dry out quite as
Is
Yeah.
the color the same as the existing roof?
It's very, very similar. So I've got a sample I can ship to you.
Yeah, maybe up to me. I just want to make sure that we don't change the appearance too much, just because it's so, this place has been around for so many years and
Yeah.
has a kind of certain appearance.
Tennessee Volunteer Orange.
Huh? What?
Just throwing it out there.
Make it match the fire trucks.
Make up for the boat.
Yeah, let's do that.
No.
Be good once a year at Halloween.
Never get elected again.
Look great on Google Maps, too.
Yeah, show
You
up.
would be able to find it.
Where's it at? Well, you can't find that, you've got a problem. Right? Well, thank you for your work on that. Yeah, I know when I started, it was one of the first things that the team went over with me, specifically one team member that had more knowledge of the building and structures throughout. He took me through and pulled the plans. He had plans pulled out and was showing me the concerns with the underlayment. More so having sufficient cross members and rafters and trusses and things like that they could tie into. And so he did expect that we would need a roof sooner than later, and they would have to do some shoring up when that happened. So
Yeah, it's some really interesting features in this building, how they build on, and when you go up in some of the areas that are still, the old roof is still in there, and it's
it can
very
get weird.
unique.
Yeah, he was explaining all of that.
Yeah,
Ton of knowledge. So.
yeah, hopefully this will be a long-term solution that none of us have to worry about again in our lifetime.
Yeah, it adds to what we're doing with the township hall, and I think make sure the investment we made below the roof is taken care of, because we put a lot of money and time into that in the last year. So, any other questions with that?
And then what was if there is damage on the subsurface, is that wrapped into this price, or that's an additional?
That would be the additional $20,000 that was in the contingency and the consent agenda.
Okay.
It's really just a blanket, roughly about 6%, 7% to just cover any unknown things that could come up with gutters, drip edges, subsurface.
Yeah, the gutters are one of the things you can, if you walk like right over here, you can see some interesting engineering,
Yeah.
and I expect a lot of that. Typically, the unique engineering has some hidden surprises with it.
Yeah, we'll try to get the gutters going downhill this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
usually help.
Should be a good change.
I trust they'll do a good job, so thank you for getting that taken care of and bringing it to us to approve today. Any other questions on the items you presented?
No.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-126, authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Delco Water in the amount of $85,000 regarding utility relocation costs for the Bale Canyon Road project.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-127, authorizing the Director of Operations to enter into an agreement with McDaniels Construction Corporation and agree to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to McDaniels Construction Corporation Incorporated in the amount of $25,000 regarding parking lot, pickleball court, civil design for Phase 2 of North Road Park development.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-128, authorizing the Director of Operations to enter into an agreement with IAP Government Services Group and agree to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to IAP Government Services Group in the amount of $349,858.25 regarding roof replacement at 1680 East Orange Road, Orange Township Hall.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Yep, and Ms. Bonnie and team, as we wait to have a formal communications type start with the pickleball, I know there's been quite a bit of desire. So as we get that going, I know a lot of residents will be thrilled to see that. So let's keep them informed.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we will.
Yep, thank you. Chief?
The chief is out to do a training, but Mike Condenser is waiting for Zambia.
Look good in red.
Good morning, Board. What you have before you is a reimbursement of some paid time off that is due to a workers' comp claim. So during the adjudication process, it's standard procedure to use your paid time off until the claim has been approved, at which point that paid time off is reimbursed to the employee. So that's what you have before you.
Any questions? And I assume that all the resolutions relate to the same matter?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-129, authorize the reimbursement of sick leave hours for firefighter paramedic Willie Harris.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-130, authorize the reimbursement of holiday leave hours for firefighter paramedic Willie Harris.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-131, authorize the reimbursement of comp time leave to injury leave for firefighter paramedic Willie Harris.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-132, authorize the reimbursement of vacation time to injury leave for firefighter paramedic Willie Harris.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, got quite a bit of stuff on today's agenda. Michelle and Todd and I have been working on updating the purchasing card account policy. Hopefully you all had a chance to look at that in the backup. No real big changes except for simplifying some of the language. There's a lot of redundancy in it, so we simplified it and updated the exhibits so we can clearly see who's got a card, how much, when it expires, last four of the card number, that kind of thing, as well as the form for the employee to sign, but reminding them of their responsibilities to use the card in a responsible manner. Anything else to add there, Michelle?
I know we updated the exhibits for the credit limits. Is that?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a good point. So we had credit limits all over the place, so we kind of simplified it to $2,500 for kind of our non-management employees and the managers or the assistants who do the purchasing for the managers. We upped them to $5,000. So, and that allows, that's not $5,000 in 1 month, that's $5,000 current balance. So it's kind of a 2-month kind of thing. It's, what's pending, not payment, as well as new charges. So that should cover that that gap or that time period. So that was the other big change. And then kind of going back, partnering with the purchasing card account policy is the Voyager gasoline card. If you all will remember, we use the BP card, so they have to drive to Polaris or Worthington to find a BP, right? So we got the approval last year to move forward, so we've been going back and forth with Voyager, got legal review done, and after meeting with Mr. Bowers and Mr. McNeil, the decision was made as far as for them to issue cards issued by vehicle. So that's a change, not really a change, but so you'll see that on the exhibit that's attached. And based on our current spend, the only vehicle that's really of concern is the medic. So you'll see it has a higher limit. Everybody else is set at 500. So we're excited because we will be able to use any gas station then. We don't have to drive around town. So, and we'll get reports by vehicle, so we'll know, what's usage by vehicle. So we're excited about that change. Are there any questions on either of
No,
those?
I love it, thank you very much.
No problem. That's
That's
overdue,
great, that's great.
that's for
Yeah,
sure.
Yes, it is,
Yes.
thank you.
Working on it for a while.
Yes,
Finally.
yes.
Was that your idea, Ms. Kraft? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we'll have everybody sign a new policy, even if they currently have a credit card, so great.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, Voyager, actually Todd brought Voyager forward because we were having so many problems. Voyager is who the state of Ohio uses, so for their fleet management. So, okay, the next item will be increasing permanent appropriations. We're just moving some of the money around from site improvements to contracted services. So it's just a reallocation. Then, let's see. Oh, then the last one. So the Ohio Opioid settlement. There's been a lot of communication. I'm happy to forward however much you guys want to read. But the Auditor of State put out a bulletin last month stating that we needed that each participating subdivision accepting the funds provided provide a written ordinance or resolution that the share of One Ohio fund shall be placed in a separate fund and used only for approved purchases. So that's what 136 is creating another fund. So this one will be fund number 2274, I believe. So actually so it's creating the fund, and then they've also said that we have to accept. They have these settlement boards. The other resolution is us approving the proposed settlement board. Basically, the members who are deciding, how to allocate the funds, the process for doing so. So there's one for the fund, and then there's one that's required to go back to the state that says, yes, we accept the members of the settlement board.
And at this point, we do not have direction on what we can use the funds for.
No, we do in this. I have. A little bit of information from this Auditor of State memo that I can send you guys, but it's really going to be, I would guess it's going to be more in either Mr. Kremnitzer or Mr. McNeil's area about community education, buying supplies to help with overdoses, things like that. So it is restricted to really, public health type of stuff.
Hopefully there's some examples that come out in the near future too, because what Lisa has, or what she sent us, is it's still kind of open-ended.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that board is also going to be working on that, is my guess. So, okay. I think that's all I've got, right? That's it. And we're working on we're working on balancing reconciling March right now, so that should be out within the next couple of days, our month-end reports.
Okay.
Any questions? No? Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-133, approving purchase card account policy dated April 4th, 2022.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-134, authorize the fiscal office to obtain Voyager gasoline credit cards, authorize the use of those cards by certain employees and for certain vehicles, and set monthly spending limits for such cards for each vehicle.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-135, revising and/or increasing permanent appropriations established in Resolution 20-401.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-136, approving participation in the One Ohio Region 18 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-137, establishment of new fund to receive One Ohio funds.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bonnie.
All right, yes, good morning. I have a couple things under the administrative report. The first item, after discussion with our department heads, we would like to propose a part-time receptionist position for our front desk area and post the job announcement for that. Our previous receptionist at the time did a lot with our website and Facebook and with our events and communications coordinator position. Hopefully being filled in the nearby future, that will take a good chunk of that role out of it. So we would like still a presence at the front desk area to assist specifically with Valerie Bunting for the trustee items and any other miscellaneous things that come to fruition. So we thought a part-time role would be a good place for that position. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And that will be that position will be directly under Valerie.
And there are no benefits for that, is that correct?
There will be no benefits.
I have no questions.
Any other questions? No? Make a motion to approve resolution 22-138, approve position description for the employment of part-time receptionist and post job announcement.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Thank you. I will forward that position description on to everybody too. I think this will be filled fairly quickly, so we're looking forward to that. The next item on the agenda is the community garden lease. So around this time last year, we did a lease. That's our partnership with Evans Farmland to have an Orange Township community garden, and the lease is in the final stages. The content has not changed since last year. We had to have council review it one last time, so I'd asked the board to authorize me, myself, the administrator, to move forward with signing off on that agreement.
And is that with Evans Farm?
Correct.
Yes.
That's $1. I think we got an extra 10, so we've got what, 60-ish, 65 plots.
66, yeah, something.
It was a huge success last year. We had a waiting list. You found the waiting list okay, I assume, in the email?
We'll have to.
Okay,
I'll
I'll take
find
yours.
out that.
How large is the area of the community garden?
It's a picture of it in the backup. It's
How many
actually,
plots?
Like how big is it?
oh, the plot, they're 15 by 15, so they're pretty size. They're larger than surrounding communities, and we have a large plot in the very front that I worked with Lowe's to donate plants for, and we put everything that came out of that garden went to the food collective up in the county, people in need, and
Who maintained that?
I did
Okay.
personally, yeah, and my family, and we had a couple of folks that helped periodically. We had almost 500 pounds of food last year, fresh produce that we took up.
That's a lot of work.
Took it every few days. I'd run a carload up, but it was a phenomenal partnership, and they came out and spent some time with us, and we had some volunteers that stopped out, wanted to help. So I hope we can do that again. I'm going to stop by Lowe's, and I'm sure it'll be good for it. Everybody had a tremendous time. Brought a lot of people from different backgrounds together, and they were able to find some common ground. No pun intended. But it was good, and I think this will be the last year before Evans Farm starts to develop that property, and in true take the initiative fashion, Mr. Bowers is already working on setting up something that will expand upon that throughout the community and school district, which is huge. So hopefully we can get that to come to fruition and continue this. I know the resident base really enjoyed it.
How big is it? Is it like an acre or?
Yeah, let me find the picture. Yeah, it is. It is
It
big.
looks really big.
Yep, and so if you look here, the water source here's a pond, right? So they're pulling the water out. The plot for people in need is like that, it's huge. And then all the plots go through here, and we have the ability to expand over here further if we want to. Last year we tried to plant rows of corn just for the community, and we planted them too late. So we're going to plant them early this year and try and get some corn in there. And I planted several rows of wildflowers too that the gardeners could then take home. So they'd come out with their kids and pick fresh flowers and take them home. It was fun.
Is there a Do you have any sense of where the residents live that are using it? So are they a lot of Evans Farms, or they're just kind of throughout the
It's
township?
throughout the township. We have folks driving, actually, there were several from your neighborhood that came over, participated, but all over. A lot of folks that would try, the trails came up because they wanted to ride their bikes there. Evans Farm had quite a few in the neighborhood next to that, Allen Creek Village. They were literally all over.
That's great.
So we're looking for a new location for that, is that correct?
Yeah, so there's a potential opportunity to work with the schools, and we're in the initial conversation, maybe looking at like a partnership where the students and things like that, you know, the way they built elementary schools is pretty nice here because it's a sense of community already. So they'd have a dedicated place there, and we could incorporate the people in need concept at a larger scale. Good for young people and coming out and putting some effort in for the collective community. So
Has anyone discussed it with Evans Farm, whether they have any property they'd be willing? Because I thought, I can't remember for sure, but I thought that they had talked about community gardens for
they
all
have one.
farms. Do they?
Yeah, they have one that's already there for
That's
their
just for them?
residents. The plots are much, much smaller, and they're going to continue to have that in the future, you know, just for that community specifically. But the initial thought wasn't just Evans Farm. The initial thought behind this was as properties are in development, you know, we've seen it a dozen times where the phases of development can drag on. So if you start to break ground in 1 year, it may not, you know, they may put utilities in and leave the land set for an entire year, right? So in those situations, how can we do something to spruce that up and make utility out of it versus just being an eyesore? So that was the original concept. And it just so happened that when we, you know, when I brought that up and got that concept approved, there was a plot that some folks were asking questions about at Evans Farms. So I just asked them and they said, you know, yeah, let's do it. So we didn't expect this year to be at the same spot, but it worked out and made it easy.
I just thought, I can't remember for sure because it's been years, but I thought the Evans Farm originally had talked about like community gardens for the township as a whole, but I could be wrong. I have to go back and look through the minutes.
It's just their dedicated area. In fact, we had a mix-up last year where one of the residents leased a part of the Evans Farm area, misunderstood, and came and saw people gardening and came over, and we worked through it. You know, we had to shake them down for $20, but it worked out. It worked out. But,
Okay, that's great.
That's great.
all right. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-139, authorizing the Township Administrator to enter into a 2022 lease agreement for community gardens.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Grumble?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And the last item under administrative report is an intergovernmental agreement proposal for Berlin Township. This came to my attention a couple weeks ago. The trustees of Berlin reached out to me as they recently let go of their zoning inspector and they need some immediate help in the interim. So we went back and forth and I spoke extensively with Robin's zoning team to determine what level and scope of services we're willing to provide to Berlin, as we don't want to cause more of a burden on our staff. So there's an agreement in front of you. Part of this resolution is to sort out some final negotiations between myself and the trustees. But as far as what you've seen today, the scope has remained the same. There's just a couple of tweaks to make sure you know, we have the right to terminate at any reason if it becomes too much time, as far as we're not willing to do any overtime for our staff. So if one of our staff needs 40 hours of work here in Orange, they will not be pursuing any work in Berlin that week. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Has legal counsel reviewed this, or you said?
Yes, so I'm glad you said that. So Mark Fowler is the representative for Berlin Townships at the prosecutor's office. So Mark Fowler passed the agreement to us, and then I passed it along to Chris Betts, our counsel, and we're working on the final touches.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
This is actually good timing as part of the TIF that we're working through. One of the big initiatives will be to address Shanahan Road, right? And it's a multi-township road, and so I'm working with Doug Riedel right now, and we're working to set up a meeting between myself and a board member in Berlin to start that conversation. But this partnership is a good kind of foundation for us to continue to work together. That road's critical with the school system, the growth of Evans Farm and other developments over near Pyatt Road, and as you transition into Berlin. So I think the time is going to be perfect, where we're just building partnership on top of partnership. So Michelle's done a nice job there, and thank you for your efforts. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-140, intergovernmental cooperative agreement for shared services with Berlin Township for zoning support services.
Second.
Mrs. Bowles?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumman?
Yes. All right. We've got a little old business. We talked a lot about economic development already, so that's covered unless there's other questions. No. New business? Who's taking this one?
That'll be me, I guess. I'll start. Hopefully you all received or saw the backup, the letter from County Auditor Keitz's office that we've got 2 levies expiring. They collect through this year, so we need to have everything in by August. So we've got plenty of time to do it. There's like 2 or 3 different resolutions that have to be passed for each levy. But my question to the board is, looking to you guys for direction on, are you thinking about going and just at a renewal? What kind of information do you need to make those decisions? Do you need to do a renewal with an increase? Kind of where, what are your thoughts around what we're going to ask of our residents this year?
So I would want to know what we're spending the money on. So that's what, my big question is, where we have this much, we've spent it on these types of items, and now we need it again, or we need more to spend it on these types of items. That's just the information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, which one did you say, Parks and?
Parks and
Roads?
Roads.
Both, yeah, there's both. There's
The
half
1.5 mil that they split previously. I had some concerns just with the roads and bridges because we're limited. And part of the goal in pursuing economic development tools, and the reason that I'm working the TIF the way that I am as a township TIF, but in partnership with Delaware County Engineers Office, is to ensure that we're not undermining each other or creating new standards or expectations through that TIF tool, because it's been problematic, quite frankly, in the past. When you're taking money generated in a township elsewhere, obviously it doesn't necessarily benefit always the township. And so this case, the township will benefit greatly once we iron that out. Because of that, I'm less concerned than I was. I'm assuming that it'll work out. We'll find a way to move through with the $500,000 road and bridge, because the predominant, funding from that TIF, whether 10 or 20 years, will put us in a very healthy situation and prevent us from having to ask for increased taxes, which is critical for me. Parks and Recreation, similar story. I think we've been okay there. We've had a couple of things that have come up, I think, that, the wish list, and we have obviously the parks, but we can get all those numbers ironed, presented.
Yeah,
and
that's my ask of you guys is, and I've got a little commentary, but my ask of you guys is what information, what data do I need to provide for you guys to help make that decision?
Mine would just be and you've provided most of it in your reports that you provide us already. I can look at the statements that you provide us and see, we're getting tight there or whatever. But as far as roads and infrastructure, so the TIF, the language that we're pursuing, is infrastructure and township, related. And so with the CARES funds and the the other funding that COVID was kind of a catalyst for. It's allowed us to make some of those improvements and prevent us from having to dip into our levy funds. So to answer your question, just a forecast if we stayed the course with known projects. For me personally, what I'd like to see, I know the road and bridges pretty much covers, if I'm not mistaken, our $100,000 to $150,000 annual paving, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Actually, a little higher than that.
It's 1.2, isn't it?
This year, we're right around 1.2 million. The expected hope, I guess, if you will, if that's a good term to use, is that we will use the $600,000 on road levy annually, combined with some missing motor vehicle tax money and some gas tax money to roughly stay around $1 million in road improvements per year. That figure tackles about roughly 4 or 5%, I believe, of what our total mileage of roads is. We have about 118 lane miles of road that we take care of. We are able to do 4 or 5-ish a year on some years less, depending on the amount of ramps and stuff that need rebuilt. So it's a pretty small percentage that we can actually tackle. And I think you hit on the head, Trustee Grumbles, that it's hard to keep up with, and there's going to be a deficiency at some point. The TIF will certainly help, but there's going to be a deficiency to maintain all those lane miles within the time frame that they're going to need replaced.
And I would just like to add, just because I've worked with Mr. Bowers on this a bit, I mean, let's remember we have a $9 million Vail Canyon project hanging out there. And I mean, it's our last major road improvement. We really shouldn't, from what I understand, there shouldn't be a lot of improvements, but we've also got to remember we've got our streets are aging. You know, I know mine's a 20-year-old street that was 3 times the estimated cost because they found out they didn't do the road right the first time. So that wasn't his fault necessarily, but it wasn't your fault, I should say. But I mean, and we just found another road this year, same problem. That's going to be $100,000 to $200,000 to repair just one street because of some of this. So I just think we have to have an awareness of that, and whether that's through a levy or we do I can bring the guys in from Delaware County Bond Fund to bring them in to say, do we want to finance Vail Canyon with a bond? You know, these are decisions or things that I just need you guys kind of, thinking creatively about.
So the TIF we're pursuing, when we sat down to look at the yield from that, it's substantial. And you touched on bonds, and the beauty of that is once that tax value is proven, we can bond against that with a proven revenue stream, and obviously pay that back as we go. The other thing is with the JED, being that that's for township infrastructure, parks, safety services, things of that nature. That collection will start as soon as they break ground at the Sheets location. So if we can get another major project in that off the bat and start to expand that, I think we'll be okay. The good news is, like you said, we have time, a little bit of time, right? So if we get the numbers and start to look at that, we should be solidifying the TIF, which I think, Michelle, in the next month or so. And the JED's going to start, it's already underway. So we'll have a couple of things more concrete and solidified where we can make more informed decisions there. But the goal of the TIF would be to cover not just Vail Canyon, the Orange Road underpass.
That was the other thing I was going to bring up is that a possibility? And if so, we've got that's another $5 to $7 million that we would have to.
We'd be looking at $30 million for
Let's remember, roads right now brings in about $700,000 to $800,000 via the levy.
Okay.
The rest of roads money either comes from general or it comes from permissive, motor vehicle, or gasoline tax.
Tax revenues.
How much is the underpass going to cost us? What's our share of it?
I was told originally $5 to $7 million. I don't know where the number came from, but that was the number.
It came from the engineer's office. We met last year, and then I asked them to present a few months later. And in between our meeting and when they presented to the board last year, they found some grant money, and there's also some funding that the county has at their disposal. Really what the county's looking for is communities to step up as well and contribute a fair share, right? They can't just go around and pay out of their coffers for everything. The county's got a number of townships and municipalities and things like that. So when they found out we may have revenue coming in, they feel good. The engineer's office felt good about being able to work with us on that. And again, as those two tools solidify and we know more, and the timing is shored up, that gives the engineer's office and the county, and the county commissioners, et cetera, time to kind of collaborate. The county administrator was at our meeting as well, so everyone's aligned there on what potential may come. And as that solidifies again, we can start to look at more concrete. Hey, we're getting a grant for this. The county's going to chip in that much. ODOT's going to throw in some because it's going to improve the thoroughfare in 23 or what have you. And then, oh, by the way, there's that 71 interchange that keeps coming up periodically at Big Walnut that's highly debated and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on. The goal of the two tools is to make sure that as a township, we're healthy financially and able to not only take care of what we have, but react without burdening the community as those changes happen. So we're more proactive, more responsive, and we have the financial resources in place, or a promise of them that we can bond against, right? So
Then I've got one other comment, and maybe one of Mr. Bowers probably directed at you, sorry, I should have asked you in advance. The Parks Master Plan, do we know if there's if the existing levy, do we have any sense if our existing levy will cover what the proposals are in that plan?
I would say it's probably safe to assume it will not, but that's really more because Parks Master Plans will have a lot of hopes and wishes and dreams in them of things you should be recommended to do or things you could do. I think for short term, our focus points will remain some of the old Parks Master Plan points of North Road Park getting built out and expanding on some of the properties that we currently own. Those kind of projects could go one way or the other. They could go, we can make do with what we have and kind of go bare bones approach, or we could shoot for the moon, seek grant money, seek more levy money to build bigger and better. It'll really ultimately have to be a decision of the board of how we want to go about that, but obviously we can always do more with more resources. But I think right now we're kind of in a pattern of holding steady with what we have and just making lemonade out of what lemons we have, which has been great. So not saying it's bad.
Yeah, I would also like to see a forecast of, the future expenses and things.
like we're shopping for a car, right? Let's see what it's going to take to get a Cadillac, and then if we're just short, then oh darn, we've got to go and step down a notch, and we'll look at the 3-car models out there. And GM's a great one because it's basically the same car, right? Or Honda and Acura, right? We'll go local, Marysville.
Yeah, I'd prefer to just have a renewal if possible with them.
Yeah,
So because we do have one of those has rollback with it, so one does and one doesn't. I don't remember off the top
I
of
think
my
the
head.
Parks has the rollback.
Yeah, so we don't want to lose.
I'm just.
That's why if we wanted more money, I would say we do a renewal with an ad, so at least we still get part of that rollback.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just really nervous right now about asking for tax increases at the state of our national economy and with inflation and things. I can't.
Agreed.
So I think it's on the collective board and the department heads to put our collective thinking caps on and network, partner, look at leveraging the development that's coming in. There's also some good news too. I was at the ribbon cutting for ATS automation. They literally grabbed shovels and went next door and started breaking ground. They're going to duplicate the facility they have here in Orange Township right next to it. And I'm going to be talking with their leadership as the economic tools grow. Those are the kinds of companies, we really need to take care of and partner with here because they are investing in us, right? So our tax base continues to improve. How can we work aggressively to make sure that our residents, are in good shape? So.
Okay, well, so my takeaway is I'm going to work with Mr. Bowers and Ms. Bonnie on some forecasts for both the roads and for parks with existing kind of revenue runs and expected expenses. Okay,
All right.
perfect.
That's it.
under new business, I wanted to bring up, so this is something actually Robin Duffy brought to our attention, and he's been working with Alex Rosansky, our project manager. But ODOT is funding an active transportation plan development assistance program to support local governments. So we want to apply for the grant, and that grant would basically pay for a consulting service to create our own unique active transportation plan. So that will be in addition to our Parks Master Plan, in addition to our comp plan, but really specify the connectivity issues that we have in the township. If we are awarded this grant, there's no cost to us except for staff time and effort to work with the consultant. But part of in order for us to apply for the grant, we have to seek consensus from the board prior to moving forward. And then we would also ask one of the board members to write a letter of recommendation. Is that what we need? Okay. For the grant, we can help you with that.
Yeah, that would be great. I was actually working with a company on that a few years ago, rather than just going ad hoc or fixing problems randomly to get a comprehensive plan.
And it'll provide implementation strategies, phases, suggested funding
That's
sources.
great. I like that.
Look at that.
So is anyone willing to help us write the letter of recommendation?
I can help.
Okay. I'll probably have you work with Robin on that so we can help direct you, so I appreciate that. And then if it could be a consensus item to apply for the grant. What was the name of the grant? It's this active transportation plan development assistance.
They don't need a formal resolution?
I'm sorry?
They don't need a formal
No,
resolution?
just
Okay.
consensus.
Okay, do I have Mrs. Faust, your
Yes.
consensus, Ms. Knapp, and Mr. Grumbles? Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't say yes yet.
Okay.
Mr. Grumbles? Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Okay. We have one more item here for executive session. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-141, enter into executive session to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee or official.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Ms. Kraft, if you could join the board, please, in executive session.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the conference room is ready.
Okay.
sheriff?
I think it just wasn't sure, but the nice thing is.
Yeah, to some point, or later this week, it doesn't matter.
I'm on
Tuesday, but I feel
We're
like.
live?
they-
Yeah.
All right, take a motion to approve resolution 22-142, return to regular session.
Second,
Mrs. Spouse?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
yes?
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Nothing further for this meeting. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-143, meeting adjourned.
Second?
Mrs. Spouse?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumble?
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
Did we get the